When does someone become a master? Is it the amount of time spent on a craft, or the success you achieved with it? In this Adorama original series, we'll travel throughout the United States and discover people who spent countless hours perfecting their craft and finding their own voice. Because being a master today means being able to recognize that voice and inspire people to find their own.
With time lapses, they really connect with me because they show off transitions in time. Sometimes it's in video, and then sometimes it's in stills, like my time slice series. Hi, I'm Dan Marker Moore. I'm a photographer and video artist living in Los Angeles, California. The time slice series, just as most basic form, is a bunch of photos combined from multiple photos at the same location to create this transition effect, and it's got between 20 to 100 photos in it. And the series started from me taking a time lapse and not being able to share it on social media, because at that time you couldn't post videos. So I wanted a way to show an entire time lapse in an image. When I'm shooting for a client, it's definitely a situation where I'm on their time and I need to make sure results come through. It's a lot more free flow when I'm shooting for myself. And sometimes it will be just an hour before a sunset when I come up with an idea. And often that's due to unpredictable weather. And just at the last moment, I get a chance to figure out how the sky is gonna kind of light up and where the angle and opportunity might be. I've got a few different apps. I use Sun Surveyor, Planet. These apps allow me to visualize and find out precisely where this lineup's gonna occur. And then I find this path, and then along that path I find different places that I can access to get this view. Yeah, I keep my gear very up to date. I definitely like to take advantage of the newest technologies when it makes sense. Typically when I'm shooting a time lapse, I bring several bodies, my A1 and a couple A7R3s that I have. I like to usually set up a couple time lapses. Sometimes I'll do a wider time lapse and a tighter time lapse. Sometimes it's a planned out vision where I'm gonna connect them in post, and sometimes it's just to give me an opportunity for weather that I wasn't expecting. It's definitely important when there's a moment that you're not gonna get a second chance to shoot. I love when tools don't get in the way of your creative vision. It used to be when I'd go on a shoot, I'd have to check for watch batteries for my intervalometer, make sure I had all the intervalometers and backup intervalometers in case one wasn't working. But now the new Sony that I have, it's got one built right in and it's very reliable. You definitely need gear to get the job done. But if you just have gear and no concept or plan or vision, then it really doesn't add up to much. So it's a combination of both. Originally I shot everything in manual mode. Luckily, the aperture priority settings have gotten better over time, where it's worth it for me to just put an aperture priority. I set the time lapse and don't touch it till it's done. For shutter speed, I usually try to freeze action, especially if it's like a moon or something like that. If there's cars or any kind of vehicles moving through, I like to slow it down and get that motion blur. And I lower the intervals now. Typically I'll do every 10 seconds at this point, unless it's something like a long lens shot of like a moonrise or something that's gonna be pretty quick, and then I'll bump it up to every 1 second. If I'm shooting a time lapse that's going from day to night, the scene is gonna get dramatically darker. And in order to be an aperture priority and stick with whichever exposure compensation I have set, the shutter speed is going to change quite a bit, just as the light shift. So sometimes I'll boost the ISO or take down the f-stop. I shoot my time lapses, almost all of them are locked down. Sometimes I'll do Moco ones for specific scenarios, but when I shoot this locked down one, I can take this into post and then have an opportunity to, maybe I didn't have a vision for it and then I want to come up with something in post. I edit my time lapses on my iMac. I import them all into Lightroom. I use a program called Timelapse to let me add keyframes to the time lapse in case I want to have the white balance or the exposure or anything changing over time. And then once I do that, go back into Lightroom, export, and then it goes into usually After Effects. And then After Effects is where I can do layer-based animations, chop things up. Usually, if I'm doing the time slice, though, that's kind of in the vision. I've already planned that. But occasionally, I'll find that in the edit, and I'll be like, this is a really good opportunity to create this time slice. So one of the most challenging time lapses was definitely the eclipse in 2019. I shot that along with my friend Mike Myers. The focal length that we were shooting at, just micro movements created a little shake, and to get everything lined up on that micro level was definitely a huge challenge for every frame that was being used. But then the end result, I was able to use almost all those frames in different compositions and animations. I think everything that I do is very simple. Anyone can do it, and it's more about the patience. The process takes so long to do some of these things that most people would just give up. It is a process. I hope it doesn't sound too narcissistic, but often I'll inspire myself, and it'll be like my screensaver sometimes comes on, and I'll be like, whoa, I shot that? That's pretty good. I'm not terrible at this.